We have lots to discuss here in today's video, including all kinds of offseason trade speculation, this time around the New York Rangers, as well as the Calgary Flames and Buffalo Sabres, plus some speculation today from a few people suggesting, will Sidney Crosby change his mind about his future with the Pittsburgh Penguins after they announced the departure of Mike Sullivan today? Big coaching change in Pittsburgh. Will it change his plans or opinions? We'll discuss that scenario. Plus, of course, we had the Vezina Trophy finalists today. We had some more fines from the NHL and player safety regarding some warm-up shenanigans. Some very interesting quotes from head coach of the Kings, Jim Hiller, regarding their third period breakdown and eventual loss to the Edmonton Oilers last night, and some coaching updates as well regarding David Carle. Is he going back to the University of Denver? Will he be in the NHL? What's going on with the Rick Tocchet and the Vancouver Canucks? All that and more coming up next. So welcome back to another video here at Top Shelf Hockey. As I mentioned, we have lots to discuss here in today's video. There is a few other quick, smaller videos on the channel from earlier today with some news that came out this morning and early this afternoon. Let's start first with the early news of the day, which was that the Pittsburgh Penguins today announced a coaching change after close to a decade. Behind the bench, longtime coach Mike Sullivan is out in Pittsburgh after 400 wins, multiple Stanley Cups. But after being into the playoffs for the past 3 years, General Manager Kyle Dubas has determined it's time for a change. The news that came out this morning, it was titled from the Penguins. Their actual press release said that the Penguins and Coach Mike Sullivan were parting ways. So it made it sound a little bit more mutual, but a couple of hours later when Kyle Dubas spoke to the media, it certainly did not seem that way at all. Kyle Dubas decided that it was time for a change, and he was going to remove Mike Sullivan as head coach of the Pittsburgh Penguins. Now, of course, lots of speculation came pretty much right away about the future of Sidney Crosby. I know a lot of people wondered, geez, Sullivan has been coaching Crosby for so long. We know Crosby signed an extension. We know that he wants to win. We know he wants to have a competitive window during his remaining time in Pittsburgh for the extension he signed. Is this going to change his mind? And is this going to, maybe cause a real ripple in the league here and maybe see Sidney Crosby actually leave the Penguins? We don't really have any reason to believe that that's for sure the case, but Crosby did put out a statement later in the day basically saying that he was thankful to have Mike Sullivan as a coach for as long as he did, and he learned lots from him, was very appreciative, just had lots of nice things to say about his time, with Sullivan as a coach. Crosby, if you think about how some players, look around the NHL, and some of these younger players that are, say, 25, 26 years old, been in the league maybe 5-6 years. Some of them have had 3 or 4 coaches already. I think he's had 4 or something. It's crazy. They've had a lot of good stability there in Pittsburgh. And, I seen, because we all know that, Crosby was a Montreal fan as a kid. His dad was drafted there. There is, a connection to some degree, but we don't really know. A lot of people have always speculated about whether or not he would maybe play a season in Montreal before he hangs him up. But, I know there's lots of talk about Crosby out there wondering, will he change his mind? I don't think that's going to be the case. You never know. It's possible. I can't say with certainty. But for right now, I just wanted to bring it up because it's been a topic on social media today. I think we can pump the brakes on it. And, unless something changes, I think he's going to remain in Pittsburgh and work with whoever the next coach is. Of course, we had some fines as well for both players and teams today, just like we saw a few days ago for the Ottawa Senators. The Montreal Canadiens and the Washington Capitals have both been fined $25,000. An Arbor Jack guy has been fined just over $3,000, with Dylan McIlrath of the Capitals being fined a little over $2,000. All of this for what they're calling unsportsmanlike conduct during warm-ups before Game 4 in Montreal last night. Of course, there was a lot of yapping at each other around center ice. I believe there was even some minor stick wax. Nothing too crazy or serious. Nobody was hurt. But it's things that you don't really want to see. It's a lot more egregious than what you saw between the Leafs and Senators, with Nick Cousins just kind of flipping a puck at an old teammate in Anthony Stolarz. A completely different scenario, but once they set the standard and say, okay, we've warned the teams that we don't want to see these shenanigans. We've fined a team already for something far less. So they had to come down and do this here today. So we'll see if anything more comes from it. It was certainly a brutal, a very physical game in Washington last night, with the big hit from Tom Wilson on Carrier. Really seemed to turn the tide on that one. We also found out today as well the Vezina Finalist for the top goaltender in the NHL this year. No big surprise here. Connor Hellebuyck, Darcy Kemper, and Vasilevsky in Tampa. I think it's pretty much a given that Hellebuyck wins. I don't think Hellebuyck really cares about that right now because he's focused on coming back and getting Game 5 under wraps with the Winnipeg Jets. But yeah, those are your finalists for that trophy, which we'll find out the winner, of course, deeper into the offseason here. And, of course, last night we saw another epic comeback from the Edmonton Oilers. The Los Angeles Kings, once again, blew a third-period lead and lost in overtime. The Edmonton Oilers would just not go away. And essentially, they tied it up late. They got a lot of hard work. They got a goal from Corey Perry earlier in the third to make it 3-2. Then a Bouchard shot to tie it up at 3 with mere seconds remaining. Sends it to overtime where Leon Draisaitl ends up with the overtime winner. Now, a couple of themes here with this Los Angeles team is if you look at the stats from that game and some of the other games in this series, they're not really playing their depth players. The Edmonton Oilers are rolling all 6D and 4 lines, whereas the Los Angeles Kings are barely playing their 4th line and they're barely playing their 3rd pair D. Jordan Spence was in the lineup as the number 6D last night, and he played 2 or 3 minutes. And this is a game that not only was a 60-minute game, but it was deep into the first overtime before the Oilers picked up the win. So, we're looking at, 77, 78 minutes of hockey here, and he only played 2-3 minutes. And that overtime period was all Edmonton. You knew it was a matter of time before they got that puck in the net and declared victory. So at the end of the day, the Kings have found ways to lose rather than find ways to win. They had a prime opportunity to clear the zone. Quentin Byfield tries to dangle Evan Bouchard when he had a couple of different options to clear the zone. He could have probably went right up the middle of the ice and flicked it down, or he could have went off the boards and out. Either way, he tries to stick handle. Bouchard stops him, keeps the puck alive, and they score. I'm not sure what Byfield was thinking there, but I'm sure he's having a little bit of nightmares about that one for sure. But head coach Jim Hiller, after being talking to the media after the game, got what I thought was a very fair, and the way it was asked from Dennis Bernstein, pretty fair and respectable, was asked by him, how can you make changes to prevent these third period meltdowns? Because it's been a trend here. We've seen 3 consecutive games where the Kings have blown multiple goal leads in the third period. 2 of those 3 games, the Oilers completed the comeback. In the other one, they also completed the comeback. And then in a minute later, the Kings got a very fluky, lucky goal on Stuart Skinner to retake the lead and ended up pulling ahead. That was game 2. This series could easily be 3-1 Edmonton instead of 2-2 Los Angeles. I'm not convinced the Oilers are the better team in this series, to be completely fair and honest on watching them play. But the Oilers are finding ways to win, and the Kings are finding ways to lose. The Oilers are playing their full roster. The Kings are not. And as far as how deep that game went, those guys were bloody exhausted. They were dead tired. So Jim Hiller asked, how can you prevent and make adjustments to prevent these third period meltdowns? He was really snippy with Bernstein and said, next question. He's like, we were right there. If Q gets that puck out, or we had another empty net shot earlier, we just missed. We're right there. It's like, right, but you have your team play their game for 40 minutes. You get a lead. You play really good hockey, and then you seem to change the way you play, and you sit back and you defend against a juggernaut like Edmonton. You're playing with fire and you're getting burned. It doesn't make any sense to me whatsoever. You go back to the game before that with that insane challenge that they never should have challenged, and it put the Oilers right in the power play and basically blew that game for them. Jim Hiller should be facing tough questions. He is, as much as the players are on the ice, his decisions are having a big enough impact here to help them lose. So I'd be curious to see how this affects, if they lose this series, like what the questions are going to be from Kings management. Because that's just, to me, it's just bad coaching. It's just that simple, and he should be facing the music and should not be so snippy with reporters. A couple of coaching updates besides the Hiller thing. We do have an update on David Carle. According to Elliot Friedman, David Carle, the University of Denver, one of the, I guess, biggest names in coaching outside of the NHL, who's expected to be an up-and-coming NHL coach, might not be making the jump this year after all. We know he removed his name from the running of the Blackhawks job. Of course, what he's being reported on now, according to Elliot here, is that he very well might be staying at the University of Denver. Now, that's not 100% confirmed just yet. Until it's done, it's not done. It's the old saying, is how it goes. But essentially, with Carle, he's looking for the perfect opportunity. They recently had another baby, so they expanded their family. There's a lot of other considerations here that need to be factored in, and it just may not be the right time. So we will see. There's definitely teams interested in Carle. Can some of them kind of twist his arm, pry him away from there? Maybe, but it's not looking good. It's looking like he very well might stay, and the Carle to NHL watch will continue into next year as openings come up, because they do every year. And when it comes to Rick Tocchet and the Vancouver Canucks, the belief is that they had more negotiations as late as Friday, but as of the end of the weekend, there was no updates. When Jim Rutherford and Patrick Allvin spoke to the media, they said that we should have an answer on his future within about a week or so. It's been a week. There's been no answer. A couple of the things that are important to Tocchet that are being discussed in these negotiations is the fact that the Vancouver Canucks do not have a practice facility. And the future of Quinn Hughes, of course, is a major topic as well. Like I said, I think Tocchet is willing to stay under certain circumstances, but he's certainly going to have other opportunities as well. But as of right now, according to Elliot, the Canucks have not granted him permission to speak with other teams, because technically he is under contract until June 30th, that's when the team option would be available, which they said they were not going to invoke. They wanted to come to terms on a new contract with him if he is going to stay and ride things out. So obviously we'll see what happens with Rick Tocchet, but for right now, I think as time goes on, it's less likely he goes back. That's just my gut feeling. But for right now, that's where things stand. Now, I think we're going to be getting some more details from NHL player safety here today as well, or into tomorrow. The Panthers Lightning game got really nasty tonight. I know we thought maybe Matthew Tkachuk might see a call from player safety on the other game. That never happened. But there was multiple incidents in this game that I think they're going to be taking a look at. Hard to say if suspensions go all the way around or not, but I know John Cooper was absolutely livid. At what point Aaron Ekblad gave the big forearm shiver right to Brandon Hagel, right in the mouth, right in the face, and there was no call, and the referee was looking right at it too, so it's not like they didn't see it. Hagel did have to go off. He was pulled by concussion spotters, because not only did he give him the forearm shiver right in the face, but he did obviously have head contact on the ice as well. Thankfully his helmet's still on and everything, but he never returned though. So certainly I think the Lightning are concerned that he may have to miss time more than what he did today. So there's that. So you got to wonder about Ekblad, and to put salt in the wound, Ekblad scored a big goal for the Lightning, or for the Panthers against the Lightning after that. So it just doesn't look good. I think it could have been a major penalty. I'm really shocked it was nothing. At the very least, call a major so you can look at it and then decide what you think is right. But yeah, that was a big part of that. And we also saw Nico Mikkola take Girgensons into the boards. He was on his knees, and he still went in and felt the need to crush him again. So he was given a 5-minute major and a game misconduct. That was justified, but I do believe, based on how dirty it was, that they will probably take a look at it at player safety. I know player safety, it shouldn't matter. I have a feeling they're going to have issues suspending both guys. I'm not sure they're going to see that, but I think they could easily justify it for sure. But we will see what happens? The Panthers continue to be a very, very dirty team, in my opinion. And to me, they have to break the rules and play by prison rules, basically, to win their games, which I don't have a lot of respect for that in that style. I mean, I have no problem with the rough stuff. You can kind of, play on the line, but don't cross it. That's kind of what I like. But yeah, the Panthers are dirty for sure, and I have no problem saying that whatsoever when it comes to playoff hockey. It's basically prison rules out there. Now on to the trade speculation. Like I said, we've already touched on Crosby's future. I don't think there's anything impacted there by this move with Sullivan. If for any reason Sid does have a change of heart, there's been nothing to lead us to think that so far. In the Rangers, I know they're going to be a very interesting team to watch. The speculation, too, with the Rangers is that Mike Sullivan's going to... We already know that there was already numerous reports saying that Chris Drury really likes Mike Sullivan, and if for any reason he were to become available, he would go right to the top of Drury's list. So I guarantee that Drury is going to be trying to talk to Sullivan about going to the Rangers. And it very well could be something that has a good chance of happening. If Sullivan doesn't end up there, I suspect that he's probably going to end up in Boston. Of course, has ties to the organization in his past. He's from the area, and Charlie McAvoy, who is his son-in-law, is also on the team, possibly the next captain or one of the leaders of that team. So, I know they got a chance to work together at Four Nations and seem to enjoy that. So, one of those two markets, I think, was where Sullivan is going to land. There's no doubt he'll be in high demand and be back on his feet in a new job here in no time. But Molly Walker of the New York Post had an article wondering what Drury's going to do with Mika Zibanejad. We already had comments from Zibanejad saying that, he was aware of what was in his contract and that he could, make it work for himself. He has a lot of years invested in New York, didn't see himself moving. But is Chris Drury going to give him the same kind of treatment that we saw with, Jacob Trouba and Barclay Gaudreau? I mean, he has a full no move, so he has a little bit less things he has up his sleeve to work with to get Zibanejad, but is he going to really talk to him and try to convince him to accept a trade somewheres? And, is Mika able to kind of repair the relationship? Because I think part of Mika's issue here as well is how some of his teammates and other players have been treated around there. He's not going to give in just for the sake of, giving into this team. But he probably doesn't really want to leave either. But we think Chris Kreider is very likely gone. But Mika's another story, and we'll have to wait and see where things go. But the belief is that, according to Molly Walker here, that there's at the very least, Chris Drury is going to probably talk to Mika and see if he can't convince him to waive. But we'll have to wait and see on that front. And of course, another article I came across as well was suggesting that the Calgary Flames and the Buffalo Sabres may make good trade partners, and I thought this was interesting as well. If you look at Flames defenseman Rasmus Andersson, I know he's got desires to stay there, but if you look at the makeup of their blue line, with Mackenzie Weegar signed long-term, being a right shot, top pair D, you've got Zane Parekh, who really probably should be slotted as a top 4D sooner than later on the right side as well. Where does that leave a guy like Anderson? He's not a third pair guy. He's, going to be paid more than that, and he's certainly more capable of logging bigger minutes than that. So there is a possibility we see an Anderson trade, even though the Flames, I think, do really value him and do like what he brings. But this article was suggesting there could be a deal between Calgary and Buffalo for Bo Byram. Now, Byram's a little younger, too, so it fits with the Flames timeline. At the same time, the Sabres, not like they're an older team in Cup Now mode or anything like that. They're certainly just trying to get back to playoffs after 14 years of misery. But they, I think, will want to change the mix of their blue line a little bit. They've got a lot of lefties. They could use a righty like Anderson. So maybe it doesn't necessarily mean it would be a one-for-one deal, but maybe there could be a deal that would make sense between Calgary and Buffalo that would involve a trade with those two players being the centerpieces. We've heard lots about Buffalo needing to change things up because of the lack of success. We've heard, getting Byram signed might be a challenge. He's a pending RFA. You've got a pending UFA with Rasmus Andersson, a little older, a little more mature. Might be able to help that blue line take a step next year to work towards getting into playoffs. So, again, with the Sabres, though, you're going to want to make sure you can keep Rasmus Andersson if you make that kind of move. And I don't think it's going to be, if it were to happen, a one-for-one deal, but it's an interesting concept nonetheless. I really think both teams could probably find common ground here on a deal and maybe help each other make their blue lines better. I really do think that's a possibility. It does make some sense. It's just that the age difference, the contract, there's going to be some reservations from both sides. The Flames are going to want a longer-term contract if they're trading for Byram, and the Sabres are going to want more of a commitment from Andersson than just one season and potentially walking, right? So, Andersson likes it in Calgary, so he may not take too kindly to moving. Hard to say, but there's going to be lots of teams after him if the Flames are, going in deeper into the offseason and not yet extending him. And I can understand why they might not. As much as I like him, they don't want to box out their young star prospects here as well. So let me know your thoughts on all of today's news and rumors in the comments. We'll discuss further. If you're new to the channel, make sure you subscribe and stick around. We'll keep you up to date with all the news, rumors, and analysis of all 32 NHL teams. Thanks for watching. I'll catch you next time.